Pestilence Dawns, Dev Diary number 1, ideas. Hello, my name is Lewis Johnson, aka RaptorMelon VG, and I'm joined with Matthew McNamara.
Hey, I'm working with Lewis to make our vision of making an intense, story-driven zombie survival horror game. My skills do not lie in coding or programming, but I've been learning. Honestly, I have. And it seems manageable as of now. However, I'm in the process of writing the book, Pestilence Dawns, and adapting it enough to work in a video game. It's a challenge, and I like that. I presume this dev diary is just something to test the water and just see how much we can actually disclose about where we are at the moment. We haven't left the design stage yet.
I'm the lead programmer and will eventually be in charge of community management as our game becomes more popular and close to the community. We will be working strongly with the community during the development of our game to make it incredibly fitted for the type of character you want to play as. We will address this more in later Dev Diary, talking about game modes and game features. Here I have an extract of Matthew's book. He told me this, said it was only a matter of time until it was just me. Even now I still have the deepest respect for what he taught me, the deepest sorrow for his sacrifice. No mercy, survival at any cost. The apocalypse is your freedom and your curse. The beauty of dawn soaked through the wooden planks on the window. The shop was silent, as was the world, sleeping, hibernating, preparing. 2 flashlights swept the room, followed by a slow, deliberate footsteps. Don't do anything stupid, yeah? Seriously, don't fuck with anything, okay? Marcus whispered and grabbed Leon's shoulder. Please be careful, yeah? Leon responded with a slow nod and signaled to a shelf near the rear of the store. Meds, I'm guessing, be back there. Meds, I'm guessing, should be back there. Just a guess. Don't hold me to it. So, Matthew, can you tell us what the book and subsequently the game is about?
Right, well, it's ambitious. I mean, my book has finally finished its first chapter, which is still subject to corrections and ideas. But I guess you could say in simple words, zombies. Yes, the brainless creeps infesting today's media. However, I decided that a more human approach is needed. The changes such a calamity would bring on a young man, and how you fight in an environment, and how you interact. I've talked briefly with you how I want the player to be that character in a first-person environment. Right now in games it could be seen as third person or a first person scene where your character is literally a camera. In Pestilence Dawns I'm hoping that through animations viewed in first person, such as head bobs, /sway, don't worry, nothing too accelerating to annoy you, and body and limb movements, and I think this puts us in a good place for immersion in a video game.
What is the stage of development so far for the game, Matthew?
Well, obviously the story isn't finalized, even the first chapter isn't finalized, but for the game right now, we're in very early design stages as of right now.
I would say we're in very, very early design stages.
That is true.
And also very, very early, very early development stages, as we're still learning how to use Unity and learning how to import assets and such from Unity. So, Matthew, have you got any ideas for this new game?
Plenty. What do you want to know?
Anything that you think would be good for the game?
Well, as from the extract, you could tell that setting the mood, atmosphere is vital for a game such as this to do good, grab the player, get them in that environment, and get them feeling that they are that character. And I'm hoping to do this through, well, I'm hoping you can do this obviously, through dynamic lighting, environment effects, simple stuff like light, sun shaft rather. You know, make a big difference to the scene you're currently in.
So use the environment to
Get the player there, basically.
to get the player to feel what the character's actually feeling.
Yes.
Any other ideas, Matthew?
Oh, more ideas. I guess one of the main things I touched about when you asked what the game was really about, and that was the player being that character in a first-person environment. And really, it's just things like animations relating to your character's movement right now. I mean, if you're shouting at someone, you don't want to be a camera just floating around with words coming out of you. You want to see your character, physically moving in response to what he's saying. For example, trying to explain something to someone, moving your hands forward, stuff like that, really.
So you use the player's actual body skeleton asset type thing to inflict the game in a way that you would feel you would be if you were in that situation.
Yeah, simply put.
So like letting you actually see your legs, unlike what most games don't do.
That's always bugged me, to be honest.
Yeah. So player should feel as the character is in this situation through skeleton assets. Okay, I actually had an idea, and what me and Matthew have actually discussed is things about how the virus came about to happen. And one we've actually talked about was there's actually a zombie-like disease that it's more of a zombie-like fungus that ants can actually attract, and when they die, they get spores to grow on the back of them, which let off little I'm not sure what they're called, but when they hit other ants, they basically tell that ant to go eat another ant. So basically, a spore makes zombies, in a way, to ants. So what are your views on that, Matthew? Because I know you've done some reading up on that actual disease.
Yes, there are many things in nature which just strike as unusual. I mean, there's obviously the ants you discussed, and stuff like the parasitic wasp, which is literally something straight out of Alien, putting the embryos inside a living horse and then they burst out the host. But as of right now in Pestilence Dawns, I'm not really finalized how I want this thing to manifest itself. I mean, you've got the problem of being too generic, simple virus with no plausible explanation.
So like no backstory to the virus.
Yeah. Are you going to be stuck with something what's too complicated and just sounds too silly to be true? Because I think it's very hard to make the player believe what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. That's also why we're going to be doing some of the environment to let the player feel how the character should be feeling, and also the skeleton asset to make the player say the character shouted at maybe his teammate or whatever. Then the character model should actually shout in game rather than just letting the player be like, "Oh yeah, he's shouting, yeah, he's proper shouting there." So
If I could just pop something in there, we also wanted to do something along the lines of, if, say, the game mode was introduced, what was kind of a multiplayer version, your voice in game would actually aggro zombies, change depending on location, stuff like that.
Yep, and I've actually looked in on this, and I have found a way to do it, but it will take a long time to implement. So it might not be one of the features that's in maybe the alpha of the game or the beta of the game, but it'll definitely be in the game before we release it. So instead of that one, why don't we move on to time range? So how long after the actual outbreak are you planning on making your story, Matthew?
Good point. I mean, like, same as the virus, it's got to be long enough after for humanity to be scattered, broken, as you would say. But at the same time, you've got to think, right, you don't want this guy to be so far through the apocalypse, he's understanding it. You want it to be early enough that this stuff's really getting to him. That for him, it's not a case of putting an animal down, it's more of a putting a person down scenario. So, really, when you go for a younger character, you don't want to go too young, you don't want to go too old. Same with setting your story. So I would say no more than 7 months, maybe. I'm not too sure. It's still something I'm thinking about very carefully.
So enough time for humanity to be basically wiped out, but also for places to be abandoned by survivors.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So let's just say between the start of the outbreak to
I mean, of course, you could always do flashbacks or something.
I'll put the subject to change on that one.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to put then.
You also talked about characters, and I just wanted to know in the game, how are you planning on making character development be a big part of it?
Right, this is probably one of the most difficult things because characters are something you want the player to be attached to or hate, depending on their role in the story. I mean, like, just going to use, for example, Rage. No offense to it, fun shooter, but in Rage, for example, the NPCs, or the characters rather, they didn't say anything particularly interesting, but their animations made them interesting to talk to. So, in Pestilence Dawns, we're really trying to find the mix of great animations, good voice acting, believable, stuff like that, really.
Yeah, so basically making the character development in the game, that basically the bit that builds the game.
I'd say that's probably one of the most important features of the game.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important feature of any game,
True.
except Call of Duty. um, okay, so next question. How are you thinking about making the characters' actual like senses work with the game? Like, say he as he said before, if you talk in game, you can get the zombies hear it and get aggroed on it or attracted to it or whatever.
hmm
Um, how would you like that to play a big part in the game, or a little part, or just something that makes the player think a bit more about what he's doing?
Right, well, in some instances, you might be, I don't know, let's lay out a very basic scenario. Couple of zombies scattered around. Now, your NPC is gonna, I don't know, might be injured, something like that, and he's gonna say, you need to get these guys one by one. I don't want them all at me. So you've got to, use tone of voice and to get that one zombie from the left or the right or the center without getting all of them. So I think you could create some very tense situations where you're on your mic, you're trying not to breathe too hard as you're approaching a zombie,
Yeah,
and
that
I think it could be very terrifying, to be
yeah,
honest.
that's a brilliant idea. Actually, we didn't talk much about that, but that is a brilliant idea. I'm actually looking forward to seeing how that's executed during the game development myself. Um, Speaking a bit more on that, so by tone of voice you mean they'd have to be quiet if they don't want to attract any zombies, and they're like maybe near in the middle of in a house or in a hall or something where the voice echoes. They'll have to
Yeah,
like whisper really quietly to each other so that the echo doesn't attract like hundreds of zombies around the area.
yeah, pretty much. And I don't know, because you've got to think you want this character, well, your player to be that character. So stuff like voice commands and that's so basic right now. The technology's not ready, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So
Because I
I'm
mean,
just quickly gonna write down in-game voice will attract zombies, attract enemies. This will work with other other implementations, I'll say. So another thing is, when you're actually planning on the outbreak to happen in your story, like maybe next year or like in the future, like 2019 or like 2030 or something, just maybe a little time range on that, just so that people
mhm.
know how the world will have maybe developed during that time.
Alright. Well, let's be honest. It's kind of got to be. Well, if you want the player to be immersed, it's got to be the world they know. So there's no point going, I don't know, like I said, 200 years in the future with laser weapons and power armor, stuff like that. So it's definitely in a time range what we can relate to.
Yeah, so no
So
Halo crossed with zombies or anything.
yeah, to be
Yeah.
honest, if you're gonna ask me for a time range, I would say maybe 3 to 7 years
37
from
years in the
now.
future.
Yeah, because I want the firearms, etc., to be not too advanced, and medicine to be not too advanced as well, really. And plus, you've got to give time for, as you said, with the fungus, what affects ants. In its current stage, that could never bother a human.
Yeah. So, in your book, so Matthew, in the book, are you planning on making it so that there's flashbacks and things? So like maybe in the campaign, you go back a few years to when the world was like normal, so that the
Yeah,
players can get a feel of how like maybe modern houses look like 7 years in the future if you went that far.
well, I think the player is more interested about what that player, or that character rather, has lost through the actual outbreak. And I think a flashback, it's not really going to be for, oh, look at this, I don't know, quadruple glazing in this guy's
Yeah.
window. It's going to be more of a case of, I don't know, because the character is obviously not too old. He's obviously under 18, which gives him more adaptability, if you know what I mean. Um, so really, if you're looking at flashbacks, they're really there just to show you what's been lost as a result.
Yeah, so maybe not necessarily to show what was there, but to show what
What's been lost.
some more character development, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so use flashbacks for more character development, rather than to show what
And if
was.
I may just interject pretty quickly,
Yep.
I don't want to do the flashbacks generically. You know, it's always a case of character is knocked out, flashback.
Yeah.
I want to actually have the character, you know, I don't know, let's say for instance, sit down at a campfire with someone and just, I don't know, say, I remember this. You know, just something what's a bit more grounded than I've been knocked out, flashback time.
Yeah. So I'll put use flashbacks less generically and for more character development rather than to show what was before the outbreak.
Yeah.
Okay. You're answering most of the questions here because you're the one writing the book. I just want people to understand that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine.
if the community actually have any questions or want to help out in any way, be sure to message this account, this YouTube channel, and we'll get straight back to you on it. If you want to help out, just put in the subject Pestilence Dawns -help. It'll be in the description. And if you want to suggest an idea, we'll do Pestilence Dawns -suggest. Okay, so between this and the next dev diary, guys, we're going to be working hard on the story, and well, Matthew's going to be working hard on the story, and I'm going to be working hard on actually getting some ideas, getting some more ideas for how we're going to make the environment look, and starting to learn how to put assets and use assets not easily, but more frequently
Better.
and better in Unity, so that it doesn't use more FPS than not. So we hope you've enjoyed Dev Diary number 1, guys. We obviously don't have a release date yet for the game, nor the book, but we do have.
What would we say first? Book first, game after, or pretty much as quickly as we can get them both out?
I think what we're gonna do is, as you progress through the book. Sorry, I'll address you as you. As you progress through the book and get, say, like once you get chapter 1 done and you don't need to do any more editing on it, which will probably never happen because everything always needs editing. Like games and stuff always need fixing. But yeah, as you feel happy with that chapter, then I'll probably start working on the environment and stuff for it and the missions and stuff.
Alright.
Mainly, guys, everything that you see in the book will be probably as close as we can get it to in the game. As I said, we'll be using high quality graphics and very high quality, basically everything. and we'll have lots of options that will make it suit your system.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't want to exclude someone because they haven't bought a Titan.
Yeah.
Besides, it's only Unity. It's not too demanding.
Yeah, true. It's not too demanding. Guys,
Could have been worse.
this
Could
game,
have been CryEngine.
yeah, this game was actually starting to be developed in Java, and we're now changing it to Unity because the idea that I had for Java wasn't like going to satisfy the things that we needed to implement. So we decided to move over to Unity and make it more of a 3D game rather than a 2D 8-bit, like I wouldn't say side scroll, I'd say Pokemon style game, but not turn based.
Yeah.
Like Realm of the Mad God type thing. But we're actually gonna move over to Unity and see if we can get some work done there. If worst comes, then the game will be out very late on. And if best comes, the game will be out very late on. So I'm gonna sort out these ideas, guys. Maybe get some more down before we come back next week with the next dev diary. It might not be next week. It matters how much work we get done. If we get loads done, then we'll bring it out next week. If we don't get much done, we might still bring it out because we might have more ideas to talk about. And if we get nothing done, then we won't. We'll just keep working on it without recording. So guys, I hope you enjoy the idea for the game. I hope you enjoy the idea for the book. I'm sure Matthew does too.
Most certainly.
Yeah. And as I said, if you have any suggestions, message us. Pestilence Dawns -suggestion. If you have any, if you want to help out, Pestilence Dawns -help. If you're wondering, artists, anything will do. Post-apocalyptic style game. So if you're interested in that, that would be quite cool as well. As you could probably tell by the game, it was post-apocalyptic. But yeah, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this dev diary. Matthew, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Goodbye, people.